There are all sorts of issues that face students on campus today. On the lounge, we're going to talk about different ways to make real change at UW-Madison. Let's open the lounge. Welcome to the lounge. Here, we're going to introduce you all to different students on campus. We'll also introduce you to leadership and the people who are working with students to make things happen. We'll also give you different opportunities and ways you can get involved on campus. I want to first welcome our guests. We have Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, Dr. Lori Reesor. And we also have graduating senior and student leader, Kingsley-Reigne Pissang. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So Kingsley and I are both co-founders of the Student Inclusion Coalition, and we're also sorority sisters in Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So I'm excited to have one of my best friends here today. First, I want to start with you, Dr. Reesor. So why did you choose to go into student affairs, and how are you able to help students within this role?
Yeah, thanks, Peyton. I actually was a business major when I was in school and did business for a little while, but it just really wasn't, it just didn't fit my needs, to be honest. It wasn't the right fit for me. And college really changed my life, and being involved and having people help me get through my college experience really made a big difference. So I decided to go into higher education. I went back into graduate school, and I've never looked back. So I've worked in student affairs really almost my whole professional life, and love what I do. It's an opportunity as the Vice Chancellor to really advocate for students, to look for programs and services that help students be successful. And then I really believe in the difference that higher education makes in our society and in our world. And we are preparing future leaders like Kingsley to make a difference in the world. So it's really just an honor and privilege to be able to do that.
Kingsley, can you explain the Student Inclusion Coalition and also how us working with Dr. Reesor allowed us to accomplish many of our goals?
Yeah, so the Student Inclusion Coalition, or otherwise known as SIC, initially started as a response to the UW-Madison homecoming video that didn't have any marginalized students within the, I believe the theme was Home is Where We Are. And it didn't really show a campus body that was representative of the students there. So it didn't have students of color or disabled students, and the student body kind of got really upset, rightfully so. And it really started with a group of 8 student leaders and kind of took off into a movement where we ended up having protests and demands and working with Dr. Reesor. We worked hand in hand for actually the last 2 years in order to get our demands met, and working with administration and just kind of making changes progressively on campus. But I would say that, like, especially working with Lori, we were able to get our voices heard directly, as opposed to kind of like getting the runaround that students sometimes might when working with upper administration and just kind of like large institutions. We've gotten a lot of progress so far, but Lori was especially instrumental in helping us get our movement off the ground. So.
I definitely agree. Dr. Reesor, are you able to kind of tap back into college age Lori and give yourself a piece of advice that you think students could use today?
Yeah, actually, that was a long time ago, but love thinking about that question. I can remember that I actually started off as an accounting major, and accounting's great, but it really wasn't right for me. But then I didn't know what to do. And so for me, the biggest piece of advice is you're just going to hit bumps in the road. You have this plan, you have this vision, and then it may not be right or it may not work out. And I think that the advice is really persistence, and to always have a plan B, and to keep pushing, to not give up. I thought I was going to drop out a couple times. I was a first generation college student, and so I didn't have as much support from home or as much guidance or direction for what to do or how to kind of manage through those things. So that's where a lot of people at the university were really, really helpful to me and made a big difference in my life. But just to know that where you start or where you envision you may go, may not be the right place, but it doesn't mean you don't deserve to be here, and it doesn't mean you can't be successful. So to keep pushing on.
Thank you. And Kingsley, you have experience being a student both pre-pandemic and also currently right now. So what's one piece of advice you would give your peers?
One piece of advice, and just really a quote that I live by, and a lot of people know it, is make it shake. And really the spirit of make it shake goes into adaptability and patience, and I would just say resilience, of just like making sure that like plans don't always work out as we think they should, but not letting us get like deterred by that or upset, because like that's life. But you can't give up, because you can't give up, like that's life. So just like making it shake, it's gotten me pretty far, I would say. But it's really just about just like keeping going. And even though things may suck, realizing that like you're not stuck in this moment forever, and that you have the ability to do anything that you want.
So speaking of the Student Inclusion Coalition, or SIC, one of our demands was to have more representation on campus. And we wanted to do this through the National Pan Hellenic Council, or NPHC, also known as the Divine Nine. And it's composed of 9 different fraternities and sororities, historically Black fraternities and sororities. And I also want to give a specific shout out to Nyla Mathis, Israel Obi, and Kayla Cotton, who is the NPHC president, who have really been at the forefront of making this this fundraising possible for us to have this plot and this place on campus where we can see ourselves represented. So Kingsley, I want to pose this question to you. Why is it so important for us, for people who are involved in Black Greek life, to have that representation on campus?
The NPHC is one of the things that really stands for legacy and greatness amongst the African American community. My organization is 113 years old and standing for sisterhood and service. We really just make a large commitment to furthering our community, as well as these other 8 organizations as well. And especially being at a predominantly white institution, a lot of times the people or the population that come to campus are already familiar with these organizations and know what they stand for and know the community that they build. And these plots are just so salient because, you know, someone can walk by and see them and say like, oh, like, I didn't know that they had that here. And sometimes it can be kind of alienating and really daunting when, you know, you may be the only person of color or the only Black student in your class, but you walk by and you see a step show going on and you realize, oh, I didn't know there was this community here. And I know that it stands for all of these great things, and it really inspires people to be a larger part of it. But it's really important as far as the university, because it shows that they're making that effort towards inclusion. And, you know, diversity efforts don't necessarily matter unless you're making these strides towards inclusion and making your student body feel welcome. And I think that working with Dr. Reesor, especially, we were able to kind of go straight to the source and, you know, really tell her, like, these are some of the things that we think we should implement on campus. And this fundraiser is just so huge because we'll really finally get our plots, and they'll just be instrumental for years to come.
Yeah, now a little fun. So a lot of people know that different Black fraternities and sororities, we stroll and step. So I sent Dr. Reesor a list of a few songs prior to this. The options were Who You With, Wipe Me Down, and Nuck If Your Buck. So which one did you like the most?
So they were all very fun, but I have to say my favorite was probably Wipe Me Down, because I could totally like feel it, see it, and just imagine students dancing and strolling to it. It just had just such a strong rhythm. It was my favorite of the 3.
It's a classic.
It is. It is.
It was
Get
good.
the people going.
Yes, exactly. You could just tell. It was awesome.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining me today. I want to thank you, Kingsley, for all that you're doing on campus. Thank you, Dr. Reesor, for continuing to work with students and all the work that we've been able to do together as well. And for everyone today watching, I want to thank you. Be safe, take care, and it's time to close the lounge.